On Wednesday, May 6, the Seattle School Board will make a critical decision. They will decide whether Seattle's children will use excellent high school math textbooks that will give them a chance of succeeding in a competitive world environment, or books ranked as mathematically unsuitable by the state of Washington's Math Review Panel, books that will undermine the education of another generation of Seattle students. This video will review this situation and ask for your help. During the past 6 months, the Seattle School District appointed a Math Review Panel to recommend new high school curricula. A math panel whose chairman does not have a math degree, which does not include a single mathematician, which did not include any community members experienced in mathematical or technical subjects, and which was filled with Seattle Public School employees. This panel's top selection: Discovering Algebra and Geometry series, a series that stresses the reform or self-discovery approach to math. This curriculum was found to be mathematically unsound by the Washington State Board of Education consultants and has been removed from the state's recommended high school programs list. The State Board of Education report said that Discovering Math was the weakest, with all 3 areas considered inadequate. It compromises mathematics by leaving important mathematics undefined and assumed. The use of technology in discovering algebra in lieu of algebraic approaches contributes to the lack of opportunity to develop algebraic skills. And the value of studying geometry is undermined by the lack of axiomatic proofs, the essence of geometry in high school. The Seattle Curriculum Committee's second choice was Prentice Hall Algebra and Geometry, a series that parallels the approach used by nations with top math scores, sequencing math in a progressive and logical way. Prentice Hall teaches authentic algebra as recommended by the National Math Advisory Panel and does not include excessive calculator exercises. A local mathematician, Professor Jack Lee of the UW, has spoken out on these subjects as school board testimony and to a letter to the board. He teaches geometry for teachers, has taught middle and high school levels, and has created an after-school math enrichment class at Topps School in Seattle. Professor Lee, talking about discovering geometry, said, "I would strongly discourage this district from choosing this book. It represents a highly risky and experimental approach to teaching geometry." For Geometry from Prentice Hall, I think this is a very good geometry text. It is remarkable for managing to achieve a fine balance of inductive and inductive reasoning, hands-on activities, and clear explanations. For Algebra, Prentice Hall, he said, these books are solid, well-organized, and mathematically sound. Computational algorithms and formulas are clearly stated, while Discovering Algebra have too much verbiage for students to read and too little in the way of clearly stated mathematical principles. Definitions, computational algorithms, and formulas seem to be stated vaguely where they are stated at all. Want to see for yourself? Let's take a look at both algebra series in a little bit more detail. Washington Math Standard A 1.4a, write and solve linear equations and inequalities in one variable. Prentice Hall gets off to a good start with the fundamental properties of real numbers with the identity and inverse properties of addition on page 56. Page 70 continues with the identity property of multiplication, etc., and includes a number of helpful examples with full color. Page 72 presents the inverse property of multiplication and the introduction of the concept that every non-zero real number has a multiplicative inverse. Page 73 completes this development by defining the reciprocal and introducing the important idea that division by a number is equivalent to the multiplication by its reciprocal. This explains the rationale behind the old invert and multiply procedure. On page 86, important algebraic properties are summarized. Then students are given practice identifying these properties, which helps solidify understanding on how they're used. And on the next page, They are given more examples showing how the properties are applied in simplifying expressions. The presentation of algebraic manipulation is shown as a step-by-step procedure and is extremely important for developing students' skill. In contrast, Discovering Algebra spends most of the first 100 pages on discovery and meaningless exercises. The fundamental properties have not yet been presented. On page 97, it begins an introduction of proportions, and on the same page, the idea of a variable is first introduced. In step 1 of the investigation of proportions, the author commiserates with the student about how hard it is to guess the value of the variable. 19 is suggested, but why? This presentation of mathematics as a series of tricks is pervasive throughout this textbook. Here's the next page showing examples of 3 student papers. The student is invited to make up other methods of solving this problem, but hasn't been given a coherent rationale for any of them. The process of learning math through discovery this way sets students up to guess at why a particular trick works in one situation or in the other. Guessing and then finding out they guessed wrong fosters doubt in their abilities. Students say, "I'm just not good at math." By page 96, this book has still not talked about solving algebraic equations. Instead, we are presented with another alternative presentation of algebra, this time using the well-known balance beam analog. Not until page 243 in Chapter 4 are the fundamental properties of real numbers presented in standard form. Until this point, students have been expected to discover these on their own. How many did so, and did so correctly? How many by this time have developed, practiced, and ingrained fallacious tricks in their place? The bottom line: the Prentice Hall books are solid, well organized, and mathematically sound. Computational algorithms and formulas are clearly stated and well motivated by examples and hands-on activities. Discovering Algebra and Geometry have too much verbiage, too little in the way of clearly stated mathematical principles. Definitions, computational algorithms, and formulas are vaguely stated if they are stated at all. Proofs, the essence of geometry, are nearly absent, and the program does not include enough practice for mastery. On April 22nd, the school board split on improving Discovering Math series, with one member out of town. As a result, the final vote was delayed until 6 May, and your help is needed. School board members Mayer, Sundquist, and Carr voted for the week Discovery series. Call or email them this week telling them that Seattle students deserve quality Apprentice Hall series of math. Cheryl Chow hasn't voted. Call her as well. There are a few school board votes that will have a more profound effect on the future of education in Seattle. And here's the contact information of the school board members that should be contacted during the next 3 days.